Well, my friends, we are halfway through the year. If you set goals and intentions at the beginning of the year and haven't quite stuck with them, that's okay. Life happens. But now is such a great time to reset and go after becoming your 2.0 self again, this time with a better strategy. In today's video, I'm going over a simple but effective step-by-step process that will help you actually implement and follow through with the habits you want to change to help you glow up and step into your 2.0 self. Hi, and welcome back to the channel. If you are new around here, my name is Brianna, and around here we chat everything wellness, self-improvement, and taking action toward the life we actually want to create. So if that is your thing, then you should subscribe and stick around. But let's go ahead and dive into it. Step one is gaining clarity. A lot of times we're like, oh, I'm inspired to make all these changes and I'm going to change my skincare routine and work out more and eat better and have all these healthy and productive habits, and then not actually get anywhere because those goals are all so vague, which is not helpful for when we want to actually make changes. If you want to change any of your habits or behaviors or routines, you will help yourself out so much by taking a few minutes to gain clarity. So just take a few minutes and ask yourself, what do you want your lifestyle to actually look like? How do you want to feel on a day-to-day basis? What kinds of things does your 2.0 self routinely do? And what habits or behaviors will make the biggest difference in your life right now? And then based on your answers, based on your reflection, you want to pick 2 to 5 habits that you are going to focus on implementing and sticking with for right now. And think about being committed to these specific habits. These are the ones that you are truly focused on right now. The last thing you want to do is pick these for right now and then maybe follow through with them for a week or two and then come across something else that sounds really great to add into your life. And you end up just bouncing from thing to thing and never really sticking with anything. We don't want that. So pick the ones that you want to focus on and plan on sticking with those. And then with whichever you choose and write down, you want to make sure you're not leaving it super vague. So for example, instead of saying, I'm going to eat healthier, that is so vague. Your brain is like, what am I supposed to be doing? You can instead say, I'm going to eat a protein-rich breakfast each morning. Or instead of just, I'm going to get up earlier, you can say, I'm going to get up every morning before 8 a.m. So once you pick the habits you are focusing on and get a little bit more specific with them, you want to write them down. And then I also recommend writing down what they mean to you, why they might have more of a why to you. And this doesn't have to be super elaborate. You don't have to get super detailed, but writing some kind of meaning to attach to them or aligning them with something that you value. For example, maybe you know you really value your mental health and feeling grounded, and you know that going on a morning walk will really help support that. You're attaching this new habit of walking every morning that you are trying to create with something that you genuinely value. So now that we have clarity, we want to turn intention into action. Having the intention to do something does not mean that we are actually going to do it. I think we can probably all think of examples that we have from our own lives where we intended to do something and then we didn't do it. But I want everyone here to actually make the changes that they want to. So we are going to close that gap. And one of the best ways we can do that is by getting more specific on how we're actually going to do the thing. You want to make some kind of plan for what you're actually going to do. And your plan of, I'm just going to do it, does not work very well. No matter how convicted you feel when you tell yourself that, it usually does not work too well. So for each action and habit you chose, you want to get more specific on how you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, where you're going to do it, and maybe even what you're going to do to trigger or cue yourself to remind yourself to do the thing. Instead of, I'm going to focus more on my skincare, write out exactly what you're going to have in your routine that you can follow, and then choose when you're going to do it. Maybe that's after you take your shower, as you're winding down for bed. This may feel like extra work initially, but it's pretty front-loaded and I promise it will pay off in the long run. Getting more specific with how you're going to do things helps so much because you're getting very specific on what exactly you're going to do instead of giving your brain just this vague idea. And it helps reduce decision fatigue, which can be such a huge block to actually getting yourself to do the thing. And speaking of blocks, one of the biggest blocks to keeping up with new habits and behaviors is remembering to do them. Our brains are wired to stick with the things it is most used to doing, so it can be so easy to fall back into our old habits and routines. So something that we need to do is find a way to keep these habits that we want to focus on stay top of mind and help ourselves actually remember to do them. You will know ultimately what will work best for you to help you keep it top of mind and help you stay focused on these things. But you can use things like a habit tracker, something that you look at quite often or that you put somewhere that you are forced to see every day. You could set phone or calendar reminders. You could write these out and keep them somewhere you can very easily refer back to, like a Notion page or something like your notes app on your phone. I personally use a Notion page for this and just kind of build looking that into some kind of routine of mine. And depending on what the actual action is, I may put that into my calendar as well. Another thing you can do is pair these things with something you already do. So for example, you can journal after you drink your morning coffee, or you can prep your lunch for the next day after you finish cleaning up from your dinner. This can serve as such a great cue for you to do the thing and can overall just help you stay more consistent. So we got clarity, we made a specific plan, and now we want to individualize it. We want to help make it yours. The internet is really great at telling us what we could or should be doing, and that can be really informative and inspirational, but that doesn't mean that you need to do something the same way you see someone else do it, or that there's only one way to do that thing. And what is going to help you be the most consistent is finding a way to do it that works well for you. It helps so much to know yourself and understand yourself and approach things like goals and habit change through ways that work really well for you, for your personality, for how you tend to think, for your lifestyle, and for what you have going on in your life right now. So think about your previous experiences in changing your habits or just changing parts of your lifestyle. What has worked well for you? What has helped you make changes in the past? When have you been most consistent and why was that? You can use this understanding of yourself to help inform how you can better show up in the future. Then you can think about how are you going to approach this in terms of how can you make it easier for yourself to do? What can you do, or how can you make changes to your environment to make you far more likely to actually do the thing? For example, you can prep healthy lunches, or you can pick out your workout clothes the night before, or you can keep your book or journal by your bed, or you could keep your phone in another room for the day. When you approach things through the lens of how might be the best way to go about this for me and how can I make this easier for myself, you are going to be so much more consistent. You also want to meet yourself where you're at with these. So if there's a day that you just absolutely do not feel like it, you can either pivot to a different action. For example, maybe you go for a walk instead of go to the gym, or you can just not do that thing that day and just trust and hold yourself to getting back to it the next day. And step 4 is things that you want to keep in mind. Here are a few extra tips to keep in mind and come back to help you stick with these new habits. And you can come back and replay this part of the video anytime you need these reminders. So getting into it, your mindset and self-talk makes all the difference. This is not about being ultra rigid or disciplined. This is really coming from a place of, this is who I want to be. This is how I want to feel. This is the life I want to create for myself. I'm devoted to becoming this version of me for me. There is going to be resistance to change. That's just part of the process. Your brain will resist anything that's unfamiliar, and that's just normal. But when you notice those thoughts of not feeling like it or the excuses that your brain is coming up with, you can always come back to, but this is who I want to be. This is how I want to feel. This is how I want to show up for myself. I know that there's going to be some resistance, and that's okay. I can do the thing anyway. Learning how to work with your self-talk can be incredibly helpful because it is so easy to talk ourselves out of doing something. So think about what kind of thoughts tend to talk you out of doing something that you told yourself you were going to do or intended to do. And then you want to plan for your rebuttal. If my brain says this, then I will respond back with this. And then write those down and refer back to them when you hear your brain coming up with those things. Remember that you can reframe any situation. So if your brain is saying, I don't feel like it, or coming up with some kind of excuse, you can always switch your focus to what you enjoy about that thing, the benefit you'll get from doing it, how you're showing up for your future self. And something to understand is there is a version and part of you that wants this. There is a version of you who consistently shows up to doing this thing. There's a version of you who shows up for herself in this way, and that is just who she is. There's also a version of you who does not do this thing and is not consistent with it. And ultimately, you get to choose which version you are going to show up as most often. You can lean into being the version of you who shows up to these things. And it can be really helpful to help really conceptualize this version of you. So you can take out a piece of paper and just write out what this version of you looks like. What does she do? You can write out, this version of me is the girl who blank. And you can just write out whatever really comes to mind with that. And the last thing I'll say is, at some point I heard someone say, you can either choose your dreams or your limitations. And that has just really stuck with me because it is so easy to find perceived limitations and to then let them hold us back. We can always find reasons to not do something. And there's not a right answer or a wrong answer, but it's just understanding that this is a thing, and oftentimes our limitations truly are just perceived. And we get to decide whether or not we're going to live by that. My personal take: don't let your limitations hold you back. Again, it is human nature to see these limitations and come up with them and find them and to fully believe them, but they're often not true, and you can choose your dreams instead. So there you have it. Here's a process that will actually help you change your habits. If you focus on the habits that you chose and choose to show up as the version of you who does the thing more often than not, you will see such a difference. Your glow up does not come from some massive overhaul. It comes from small intentional actions done repeatedly. So go ahead and comment and let me know, what is one habit that you are committed to doing right now? And if you like these ideas and want to dive more into how to be more consistent, then go ahead and watch this video here where I explain the difference between people who are consistent versus the ones who are not. So I will see you there, or I will see you in another video. Bye.